This is the Patriots Drive Podcast.
We are all Patriots.
Where we discuss, analyze, and answer questions to all things happening in the NFL and with our New England Patriots. Now, here's your host, Cole Kelly.
Let's go!
Welcome into another edition of the Patriots Drive Podcast. It's been a while. We're finally back doing some lives. There's some bunch of rumors and reports out there to talk about, some OTA reactions based off some of the things we saw. There's been a lot that's happened since we've last been on, so we got a decent amount to talk about today. But I'm here with my co-host Chase Campbell. How's it going, Chase?
Yeah, it's good. It's good to be back on. It's kind of been a quiet off season other than the draft that we had. So now, OTAs, we got to see a little bit of a teaser, getting ready for camp coming up here at the end of July and stuff. And then obviously the big one that we'll talk about today, DHop, his news, his status, what we think on that situation. And then a little bit of 53-man roster predictions. We'll save that for another video, our full roster predictions, but we'll at least get into, maybe some possible cut candidates and guys that stood out in OTA. So it's good to be back, though. It's good to always talk Patriots football. Wish that the last couple months weren't so slow and stuff, and there wasn't this huge NFL offseason. Did you see there was like a graphic and it showed, I forgot who posted on social media. It showed like how long the pro league seasons are and how many off-season days there are. And like MLB, NHL play obviously so long, and NBA, then they have these little off seasons like a little over 100 days, and then the NFL has like a 200-day off season and stuff. So it's the nature of the NFL, but it's good to be back. At least we're getting a little bit closer, and we had a little bit of on-field stuff that we get to talk about with the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, the finals just ended, and we already had the draft. We already had some big moves happening, so they kind of get right into it after that. And NFL takes a while, but William, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. Yeah, so I mean, I guess if you want to, what do you want to touch on first? You want to touch on DHop? You want to touch on some of the other rumors, OTAs? What do you want to?
Yeah,
do first?
Let's save the DHop meet and the Dalvin Cook stuff for the end. I think that's what a lot of people are going to want to talk about. So let's hurry and talk about maybe a little bit of OTAs. Let's talk about some winners and losers from the Patriots OTAs. I think there's a little bit of both categories, and you got a teaser of some players that had injuries, but then you also had Christian Gonzalez out there, Marte Mapu, guys like that. So let's just start, Cole. What's one winner that you saw or you heard about from Patriots OTAs that excites you going into this season?
I mean, it's got to be the guy on your screen right there, Christian Gonzalez. He's been hyped up a little bit by some of his teammates, some former Patriots, some reporters. I mean, this is the guy that we've all been excited about, and especially with some of the other news around the NFL surrounding the Patriots recently, it's going to be even more important for him to have a good season. So we're going to be counting on him. Hopefully he is what he can potentially be, because this kid has all the talent and athletic ability in the world. I mean, his first OTA practice, he's out there doing crazy one-handed catches and doing a bunch of stuff. So he looks smooth. Even in the 5-second clips we see of him flipping his hips and turning and getting out into space, like he's an intriguing player for sure, and I'm super excited to see his development in this system with the Patriots under Bill, all that stuff. Gonzalez is a stud, and hopefully he's a future All-Pro.
Yeah, I think Christian Gonzalez is going to be very fun to watch. I already think he's the cornerback one. I think we can talk about this since we're talking about the cornerback position, but the Jack Jones news, we don't know what's going to happen there. We don't know if he's going to face a suspension. Obviously, he was out on bail, so he's not going to be in prison as of right now, and he has a second hearing, like August 18th, somewhere in that range. So we don't know what the status is of that throughout the year. But even if obviously we want Jack Jones to play. If you have Jack Jones, Jonathan Jones, and Christian Gonzalez on the outsides, you can put Marcus Jones on the inside. That's a beautiful looking cornerback room. But even without him, with the draft pick of Christian Gonzalez, and now you have Christian Gonzalez playing the boundary, Jonathan Jones and his speed playing the field, and then Marcus Jones, and then you're going to be a little thin there at the cornerback position. But I think that the Christian Gonzalez draft pick was a home run. We've talked about this when he got drafted. I didn't even think he'd get out of the top 10. I didn't even think he'd get to pick 14. I didn't even think he'd get to pick 17. And he made it to all those ones, and New England was able to draft him. So that was a huge pickup for New England. One of the most exciting picks in the first round for the Patriots in the last couple of years. We both wanted him. A lot of Patriots fans wanted him. So seeing him out there just moving so fluidly, opening his hips, making plays like that. I did a film review on him. So if you haven't seen that, make sure you go watch that. Some of his best plays in college and just his fit in New England. But I really do think he's going to be that presence that Bill Belichick's always had, that he can just lock down one side of the field and, let and do some other things with the other cornerbacks. But Christian Gonzalez is going to be elite this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's definitely at the top of my list for guys to get excited about. But how about one for you? Who was one guy who stood out? We're starting to see it in the comments, I think, who you're probably going to be talking about. But who's somebody you would want to touch on here?
Well, I did 2 film reviews this year, and it was of 2 rookies that I was pretty high on, and this is the second one. Marte Mapu. Casey says it right here. I think that this is the Swiss Army knife that Bill Belichick loves to have. And, maybe some people in the draft thought that there was a reach for New England in the 3rd round. A lot of people said he probably wouldn't have made it out of the 3rd round. So whether or not New England reached or not, you're looking at a dude that balled out in OTAs. Absolutely was all over the field. He was in a non-contact jersey, but making plays. I also did a film review on him, like I mentioned. Make sure you guys go. Cole's throwing him in the comments right now. So he threw the Christian Gonzalez one in there. Marte Mapu also has a film review out there. But what's so fun about watching his film in college, and what I think New England's going to have so much fun doing, is he lines up in the post and he drops back and he plays the deep third. He rolls down in the box. He plays the slot. He plays off of number 2 receivers. He plays great man coverage on tight ends. He does everything. And I think it's going to be really fun to watch what Bill can do with him, Adrian Phillips, Kyle Duggar, Jabril Peppers. There's a lot of guys on this team. And I think Marte Mapu's the best at it, but I think that there's a lot of guys on this team that Bill can use to disguise and show different looks and possibly confuse some of these offenses and these elite quarterbacks that we'll be playing. So he just continues to add athleticism and freaks on the defensive side of the ball. And Marte Mapu, I think, is going to be so fun to watch. I'm really excited for him.
Yeah, it's just, like you touched on, his versatility, and we saw it during OTAs about he was getting moved from linebacker, safety, all that stuff. So just hearing all the reviews about him from different guys and the athlete he is, and not only that, but how smart he is, that's really what you need to succeed in this defense is to have intelligence as far as football IQ goes. And that's why Miles Bryant is still a part of this team, is because he's so intelligent on the football field. But he's got, I think, the rare combination of football IQ, athleticism, and versatility, where I think he fits perfect as a chess piece in this defense. So I'm super excited about Mapu. And like Carlos says here, Daniel Jeremiah, I think he was one of his favorite players, or his favorite prospect coming out of the draft, as far as just fun guy to watch. He's explosive. He can play a lot of different positions. Mixing him with Duggar and all that other safety room and linebackers and all that stuff, it's gonna be fun to watch. So I'm certainly excited about these 2 young rookie players coming into this defense and hopefully making a big impact year 1.
Yeah, I do believe it was Daniel Jeremiah that said when he was drafted, this is one of my favorite guys to watch. And he balled out at the Senior Bowl too. He should have went to the Combine. They didn't give him an invite, which I think is crazy, because he was impressive as heck at the Senior Bowl. He was smacking dudes in the run game. He was able to cover all the running backs in one-on-ones, winning in pass rush. So him not getting a Combine, kind of, you didn't really get to see him on the national stage. And maybe if he went to the Combine, he's a 2nd-round pick, and a couple more people don't think he's a reach, but this dude's very good. He was the Big Sky Defensive Player of the Year. He has that size where he's 6'4", 215. They'll probably bulk him up a little bit, because I do expect him to play a little bit more hybrid style linebacker. So he might need to gain a little bit more pound or weight just so he can hold up in the NFL and not get as many injuries. But he's tough as nails. He hits like a truck. He's going to be super exciting to watch. So I'm excited for our 2 rookies on defense. Is there another guy defensively that stood out? Maybe someone that's, not a rookie that's already been on the team, maybe that stood out in OTAs to you?
So yes and no. As far as on the field, Jack Jones was getting some good reviews in OTAs, which is what's frustrating about this whole situation, is you felt really good about this kid having taken a decent jump in year 2 in the system, because last year he was pretty solid and he made some really good plays, and you could see the potential he has. this guy being a steal in the, what I think, 3rd round. We got him 4th round. So Jack Jones, I was really excited about. I hope it works out. I hope he somehow was innocent and the Patriots keep him and he can keep his head on straight and just focus on football, because the kid's got a ton of talent. I don't think he can keep it together. I think he's going to get suspended or miss time or do some jail time. And I don't think the Patriots are going to keep him around for that. So it's unfortunate, but he was one guy that I think was really going to add some versatility to that secondary, and him along with Christian Gonzalez and Jonathan Jones and Miles, not Miles Bryant, Marcus Jones. I think those guys would be a really fun secondary to watch, where you can mix and match different things along with that whole safety room. So unfortunately, the whole situation popped up with Jack Jones, but he was one guy who stood out as well at OTAs.
Yeah, Jack Jones, like I said, if he doesn't have any off the field issues and he can, get cleared and he's able to play, you have a really good cornerback room and a really deep cornerback room. And that's very good. Corners are always getting hurt. They're running so much, especially during camp. You're going through cornerback bodies a ton. So I hope they figure that out. I hope that he's able to play this year and give us some good minutes, and continue to build off of last year, because he was creeping up. I don't think he was better than Jonathan Jones, but he was definitely our 2nd best corner on the year. And then Jalen Mills is going to be moved back to free safety from what we're hearing. So there's a lot of high hopes for Jack Jones in New England. I hope that he's able to be on the field for this year to help with that. So let's kind of transition to the offensive side, though. We hit on a little bit of defense. One winner for me on the offensive side is a guy that we've been wanting to have for years. And we've had a guy that we thought could fill this role, but it hasn't been. And that's Mike Gesicki. He's what everyone thought Jonnu Smith was going to be. He's already been more productive than him. Bill O'Brien, we all know, was going to come in and use the 2 tight end set, and he's been true to that. Him and Hunter Henry were fantastic. There was a day where he had a 20-yard pass from Mac Jones, then a 40-yard touchdown from Mac Jones. He's big, he's fast, he's hard to match up against. So Mike Gesicki, seeing him come in and integrate so quickly with not only Mac Jones, but Bill O'Brien and this offense is a huge sign. It sucks we only have him for 1 year, but I'm really excited to see that he's already having this huge year and that they're reincorporating both tight ends, because Hunter Henry had a down year last year compared to his first year here. And you can blame that on Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, and things like that. But the 2 tight end offense with Gesicki and Hunter Henry is going to be really fun to watch. And it's great to see Mike Gesicki already having, kind of a big OTA process.
Yeah, I'm super excited about him as well. And like you said, the 2 tight ends dominated OTAs. They had each like double the first wide receiver as far as catches goes and stuff like that. So I think Gesicki had the most, and then Hunter Henry was a few behind him. But Hunter Henry had a good OTA session as well. He was involved heavily along with Gesicki, like you said. So seeing what Bill O'Brien can do with these 2 guys and get them back on track. Like you said, Hunter Henry had a down year last year. His first year was great. I really think it just has to do with the offense as a whole and who was running it or who was not running it well. So I'm super excited to see what Bill O'Brien can do with this offense. And Hunter Henry is going to be my one of my standouts. But one guy I will say, Devontae Parker, especially after some of these rumors were coming out with DHop, he made some really good contested catches.
He heard him, man.
Yeah.
He heard him.
He definitely heard the noise. So Devontae Parker, he showed up and showed out, and he had a good OTA. He had some good OTA practices as well, being involved there downfield and making some really nice catches.
Yeah, and we know the thing that's so frustrating about Devontae Parker, we know he's a number 1 receiver caliber type of guy, but he has so many health concerns. And that's what's concerning, is when he was on the field and he was good, he was fantastic. Against the Ravens, he was really good. And then he had 1 game in the last half of the year. Why am I blanking on it? Where he was really good too.
I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember which game that was.
It seems so far away, but anyways, he had 2 games where he was healthy and he was so good. He has the talent. He was a 1,200-yard receiver the 1 year he played a full season. We know Devontae Parker has that in him. So I am so excited to see him and Matt continue to develop. We kind of saw it last year, though. They're like, OTAs in camp, him and Mac Jones have this huge connection, jump balls, stuff like that. It kind of fizzled out in the season. He had those couple games, but it wasn't consistent. So if he can stay healthy and he can stay consistent, I 100% agree. The other receiver I kind of want to throw in there, and I wouldn't call him like a big winner, but Tyquan Thornton, when he was on the field, looked really good. He suffered that soft tissue injury at practice and then ended up not practicing or finishing out OTAs, but he looked really good when he was on the field. And there were constant times where they're like, oh, Mac Jones, big ball to Tyquan Thornton. And that helps with Bill O'Brien now trying to spread down the field and wants to throw shots because we know Mac Jones can throw the downfield ball. We haven't seen it in the NFL. You go watch his college film, the dude was elite throwing the ball down the field, like the highest PFF grade, had so many yards, and he's thrown to Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith. So you give him a target like Tyquan Thornton, he's going to be really fun if they can get on the same page. And it's good to see Bill O'Brien letting him air it out a couple times. And if Tyquan Thornton can stay on the field, we know he had that collarbone injury last year to start the season, and then he showed flashes, but he's only played like 8, maybe 10 games in the NFL, so he's still very fresh. He hasn't had a full season technically under him. Keep integrating him into this offense. I'm really excited to see Tyquan Thornton in this offense, and hopefully he stays healthy and comes back from this because it seems like he had a pretty good OTA session while he was on the field.
Yeah, that's the only thing is the injury concerns with him, just that small frame. So we'll see if he can hold up, but he did look good early on in the limited practice that he did have. But yeah, going back to Parker for a second, 5 catches, 156 yards against the Ravens in that loss. So I still can't remember who the other game was against, but yeah, Devontae Parker is a talented receiver when he's healthy. So hopefully Tyquan, all these guys can stay healthy for longer this year. And if we don't get DeAndre Hopkins, we really need the health in the receiver room to be better and hold up. But one thing I do want to touch on is something that I'm a little bit worried about: offensive line. I never felt good about this room during the offseason. I didn't like the moves we made very much. I think you're really limiting yourself with old aged veterans who really didn't start on some much worse teams. That concerns me. I think you're relying on patchwork, and I think the offensive line is extremely important, especially for a pocket quarterback like Mac. Him not having good offensive line, I think, could be one of the things that derails this season. Is if Trent Brown gets hurt, or he's not playing to his potential.
If he even shows up.
If he's, you know what I mean? It's just, there's so many question marks on the offensive line as far as the tackle situation goes. So I'm definitely concerned about that. I'm hoping it works out for the best. But if there's one thing, if I had to put my finger on one thing that's going to make the season go off the rails, I would say offensive line could definitely be one of those things.
Yeah, and we'll kind of move on into losers. I want to throw in 2 more winners, and they go hand in hand. Mac Jones, Bill O'Brien, right? And you knew that if Bill O'Brien was coming in, Mac Jones was going to be good, right? But then let's go to the losers. Like you mentioned, it's going to be very hard to have a productive offense if this offensive line is not pass protecting very well, and you can't get the run game going. And Trent Brown was an issue early, not showing up to practices. When he came back, he's Trent Brown. If he has that mindset and has that mentality, he's going to be good. And we've seen him both sides of the ball, or we've seen him on both sides of the ball, right and left tackle. We've also seen him on both sides of the spectrum. Really good, really engaged, Pro Bowl type of player. Really bad, out of it, partying, just dude sucks and stuff. So, and then like you mentioned, you go out and you sign some older veteran type of dudes to kind of patch his offensive line. Well, Riley Reif gets moved to the second unit halfway through practices because he's just old. He can't, keep up with them anymore. So that's the concern. You go out and you sign these guys, and now they're already getting bumped down to the second unit. It's a little concerning. The offensive line, I think, for sure is the weak spot of this offense. And DHop or no DHop, I do believe that the offense is going to be better whether we get DeAndre Hopkins or not this year. Obviously, everyone wants to get him. We'll get into that in a second. But if this offensive line is not improved from last year, it's still going to be a struggle for Mac Jones and Bill O'Brien to continually be an explosive offense and stuff. So the offensive line is definitely a concern, and I think they got to figure it out. I don't know what the answer is. Do you move Awinu back out to right tackle and maybe slot Antonio Mafi or Sidney Sowell back at that right guard position? Do you have Sidney Sowell play tackle right off the bat because they said they liked his measurables and they think that he can play tackle? I don't know what the answer is. I am a little bit concerned right there, and they really didn't address the long-term position there. I think that's got to be the biggest need going into this season and into next offseason is one of the tackle positions of the future.
Yeah, and that's what I didn't understand about not taking one at all. I was happy to get Gonzalez where we got him. Like that was huge, but you had plenty of assets to trade up back into the first round or even grab a guy in the second where you got to throw a dart at the dartboard at least. We didn't really grab anyone until late who they're trying to move around City Sao as a tackle, and I don't know. I really don't love it. We have no long-term solution at the tackle position unless you're talking about moving Mike Onwenu, but they've said many times that they don't want to do that. They like him where he is at guard. So I don't know. I agree with Mike here. Bad offensive line can rip things apart really quickly. So we'll see. We'll see when the pad come on. Hopefully they figure it out. They got a new O-line coach, so hopefully Adrian Clem can put this patchwork together on the O-line and figure it out and have them be serviceable, because it's tough when you got a bad offensive line, especially tackles. There's so many talented edge players nowadays that can really disrupt you, and we don't want Matt getting hurt again. So O-line is definitely a downside.
Yeah, and let's talk about one more, well, we'll kind of move on into the loser section now. I don't want to group him as a loser, but you didn't see him on the field. Juju Smith-Schuster, a little bit concerning. He's still trying to get back to 100% health. He's the big addition so far of this offseason, right? You get Juju Smith-Schuster on a 3-year deal. He just won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs. Really good slot receiver, kind of to replace Jacoby Myers. So, not seeing him on the field sucks, but he got high praise from Mac Jones right here. He said he's been hard at work behind the scenes, studying the offense in hopes of limiting the time it'll take to get up to speed when he returns. So he's working hard. I don't think you have to worry about Juju Smith-Schuster's work ethic. I know a lot of people worry about the TikTok dancing and stuff like that, right? I really do think Juju is a hard worker. He has the drive. He said he wants to be in New England. It's just a little bit concerning that he's still trying to get back to 100% and, stuff like that. So I would have liked to have seen him out there in OTAs. Obviously, seeing a full pass catching unit out there for Mac Jones with Juju, Devontae, Tyquan Thornton, Mike Gesicki, Hunter Henry is going to be really fun, and it's going to make the offense look that much better. But you got to get 100% healthy. Got to get him back on the field, and then this offense will look complete. And so I'm excited to see him in there once he gets out there in camp.
Yeah, I am as well. And my first and really only loser here is Matt Patricia. He gets removed from the equation. All of a sudden, things look great, and they're firing on all cylinders. Even without Juju and Jacoby and Tyquan, like we're good now. So I'm excited to see what this offense brings and Bill O'Brien. Like you said, Juju, not seeing him, Tyquan being banged up, that's a little bit concerning. But there's plenty of time. He's got a couple months here to get ready, and I guess 1 more month until training camp. So hopefully he's ready to go by then. And that's where it really counts. That's where you really need him. So we'll see.
Yeah, we will for sure. So if you guys have any more winners or losers, guys, you kind of want to talk about, go ahead and throw it in the chat below. We'll kind of mention those. Let's kind of transition into some 53-man roster predictions. Like I said, we won't go into this all. Cole, do you see any surprise cuts, maybe some veterans that probably won't make the team in your opinion? Or guys, rookies, undrafted guys that stood out that you think could make the team. So let's kind of start there. We probably only have 1 or 2 each, just waiting until camp and really seeing and stuff. But is there anyone out there that really stood out to you that you think might get cut or might make this roster?
I don't think this guy will get cut, but I think Kayshon Boutte, is going to be a guy who he didn't really show out a lot during OTAs, which I get it. I mean, he's young, he's a rookie, he was drafted late, but I think he's a guy who could be in consideration for a redshirt year, a Foxborough flu injury that keeps him out for the year, but doesn't take up a roster spot, and they can keep him and keep developing him. I think that would be a smart decision for him. If you don't think he's going to contribute this year and need some time and stuff, then that's one guy I could see them doing that too. And it's worked out a couple times in the past, and hopefully it could work out for him. But I have a hard time seeing that he's going to contribute much if this wide receiver room does stay healthy, and if we do add to it, which I hope we do. But we'll get into that after.
Yeah, Carlos and Ashton both think that he's going on IR. I agree. I think that he had such a good freshman season at LSU. You got to do something to keep him on this roster. I know he was a little bit disappointing last season and then combine because of his ankle injury. You got to do something to get this guy back up to speed and see what he's about all throughout the season, maybe on practice squad, and then throughout next year. I'm working on kind of the last film review I want to do is Kayshon Boutte. I've just been a little hesitant because he wasn't on the field so much, but I'm going to try to get that one out to you guys before camp starts. But this dude was special. That game against Ole Miss when he was a freshman, he had over 300 plus receiving yards, like 357, 3 touchdowns. Like he has it in him. Now, there was a coaching change and a quarterback situation that kind of, he wasn't on board with, and he had some off the field issues. we've seen this with Bill Belichick before. We've seen him take guys like this that had issues, and I don't want to throw, the touchy subject one out there with Aaron Hernandez, right? But we saw a situation with that, and we saw what Bill could do with him when he was on the field. I think that he could have a similar storyline, and people, they don't compare him to Stephon Diggs, but Stephon Diggs was a 5th rounder out of Maryland. People say that this could be the Stephon Diggs of this class, a late round guy, maybe takes a year or two to get into the NFL because of injuries and, off the field issues. But if he reaches his full potential, he could be a number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. So I'm super excited. I hope he makes this roster in some way. I hope that they keep him in some capacity, because I think letting him go without, at least putting him in your system and seeing what he can do would, I think that this is the type of guy you take a shot on. And that's why I loved it as a 7th round pick last year. It's like, it's low risk, high reward. You just got to give him a chance. You got to develop him.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. You gotta find a way to keep this guy on the roster, because he's got all the talent in the world. It's just you gotta try to help him figure that out and get back to where he was before, because he is an extremely good wide receiver. He just, I don't know. This happens sometimes to top prospects and guys like that. They have different things off the field and on the field that get in the way of things and kind of derail them. And sometimes they just need a good situation to get them back on track. So Butte is certainly a guy I would like to see them keep in some capacity and give him at least a full year to develop and see where he is next year. And if you give him a year or two and he's still not the player you think he could be, and he's not going to contribute, then you can let him go. But at least give the kid a shot, because he is he's oozing with potential.
Yeah, he could really blossom into a guy that, really comes out of nowhere. One guy I kind of want to get your opinion on. Undrafted free agent has made the Patriots roster. How many years in a row? Is there a guy out there for New England this year? And also, what are your thoughts on possibly keeping Malik Cunningham, the quarterback from Louisville that moved to receiver this year? Maybe you got a Julian Edelman, Jacoby Myers situation there. Is he the undrafted guy we should be keeping an eye on?
I think that'd certainly be interesting. Yeah, I mean, he's certainly an athletic guy, especially as far as the quarterback position goes. He's not crazy fast in general in terms of like skill positions in the NFL. I think he ran like a 4.5 something. But I certainly think that's intriguing. You know what I mean? They've had success doing this in the past. So I think he certainly would be a guy to keep an eye on as far as that Julian Edelman role, that undrafted free agent role. Just keeping a guy who he's a raw mold of clay right now, and you gotta mold him into that receiver, and he hasn't had a lot of reps there, so it's going to take time. So I could see them keeping him on the practice squad maybe or something, just to keep him around. And if he gets an opportunity to get called up and be on the roster for a couple games due to injury or anything like that, I think that's a possibility. But I don't know. I find it hard to believe that he's going to contribute this year. Usually guys like that take some time, but I think Butte and Cunningham would both be guys to keep an eye on as far as long-term, not contributing this year, maybe not making the roster this year, but maybe on the practice squad or Foxborough Flu or something like that. I certainly like it as far as that goes. And then you can also have the third quarterback active on game day. I wonder if that's something that they would do. And if 2 quarterbacks go down, then he would be able to play. But I wonder if that's something that they'd be interested in doing.
Yeah, I would almost rather. I know we have Trace McSorley. We signed him. I would almost rather, if with the third quarterback active on game day, I find more value in having Malik Cunningham than Trace McSorley. I hope we never get to our third quarterback like we did Zappy last year, or a couple other games. But I think that there would be more usage with Malik Cunningham. Maybe he has some special teams value if he's moving to receiver. I don't think Bill's going to keep him exempt from playing special teams. We all know Julian Edelman had to do it and stuff like that. So I think that he could possibly be a guy, like you mentioned, like Kayshon Boutte, that has a redshirt year, and then maybe there's something in there. I don't know if there will be any more teams out there that will be interested. So if you do cut him or, put him on waivers for a week or two, I don't know if anyone's going to pick him up. You can probably get him right back on the practice squad. But New England seemed to be high on him. They got him really as one of their only UDFAs this year. So we'll see how he turns out. But one guy I kind of want to mention as a possible cut candidate, and I don't know how I'd feel about this. It's just what I've been hearing around the camp and stuff from reporters. Lawrence Guy did not. He held out because of contract issues, and I don't know how Bill's going to view a 33-year-old holding out for contract issues. Lawrence Guy is not a superstar type of player. Now, he makes an impact, but you got Keon White, you got Gotcha, you got Barmore, you got Dietrich Wise, Carl Davis. Do they just cut strings with Lawrence Guy, say, hey, you're not really worth it right now. We can develop Sam Roberts, who we drafted last year late out of that small school, or, go sign another guy for cheap. I'm a little bit worried that maybe his contract issue is going to make him as a possible cut candidate and possibly have to fill another defensive tackle shoes or just bring up a young guy. So what would you think about, kind of cutting strings with Lawrence Guy at defensive tackle?
I wouldn't love it, but I don't love that he's holding out for a little bit more money when he just signed a new deal a couple years ago, and he's got a couple of years left on his deal, and he's old. Like, it's just not. I don't understand the leverage on his part as far as that goes. Like, Daniel Quale, and then we got Devon Godchaw. Like, there's other guys who can kind of fill in at that spot. Lawrence Guy is just, he's a great dude. He's a Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee like every year for us. He's up for a bunch of awards. Like, he's a good dude. He's a solid player as well. He's getting older and he wants more money. That doesn't usually add up, especially in the Patriots stance. So I don't know. I don't know how it gets resolved. I know he's a guy that Bill respects. So maybe they figure something out. Maybe they work it out, but I definitely could see that being a possibility. Another one that would be, I think, surprising to some and myself, but also at the same time not that surprising, is Trent Brown. Just because you never know what you're going to get from the guy. If he's not bought in, if he's not hustling, if he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, and he's not engaged, he's not a good player, and he's a waste of a roster spot. He's also super injury prone. When he has his head on straight and when he works hard and focuses, he is a dominant tackle. It's all about mindset for him. It's all about effort and mindset for him. So I would like to keep him, especially with how thin our tackle room is. I don't have a lot of confidence in our current guys. We need a big year out of Trent Brown. And if he's not bought in training camp, I think it'd be a super Belichick move to just cut the guy. You'd save a decent amount of cap space as well. Not that there's a lot of people out there to just sign at tackle for free agency, but I don't know. I think that's a possibility depending on how Trent looks later in the summer.
Yeah, I think he's got to be a cut candidate for maybe a couple of years just because of the issues he's had. So, one more I want to throw out there. Evan Lazar floated this thought, and I don't think it's going to happen now with the Raekwon McMillan news and kind of his injury. But Evan Lazar on his initial 53-man roster had Mack Wilson getting cut for inside backer. Now, what's interesting here is he had Chris Board, the free agent we signed from Detroit, in the linebacker group and not in the return specialist kind of coverage aces guys. The three he had in the coverage aces was Matthew Slater, Cody Davis, Brendan Schooler. Now, obviously that changes with Raekwon McMillan probably, not going to be on the 53-man roster just because of his injury and the nature of that. So that puts a slot in there in this 53-man roster prediction. But I would not be a fan of cutting Mack Wilson. He has Jelani Tavai in here, and I thought Tavai showed good things, but I think Mack Wilson was one of the better linebackers for New England last year. He's very passionate. He loves to be here. I would not be a big fan of cutting Mack Wilson. Maybe he did this because there's kind of some repetitive with Marte Mapu. Maybe they want him to take that spot. But I thought Mack Wilson was very good last year for New England, and I don't know if I'd be a fan of cutting ties with him, not making this linebacker room because Jawan Bentley's kind of that big thumper downhill. Mack Wilson can at least run, has something to him in the coverage game. So what would be your thoughts if this was true and, Mack Wilson was not in the Patriots 53-man roster?
I wouldn't love it. I don't think I'd be surprised, though, because they did not play him on defense that often last year. Not nearly as much as we all thought he was going to play. He mainly played special teams. Didn't contribute a lot on the defense side of the ball. I don't know if they didn't like what they saw from him when he was on the field, but they didn't involve him much. So I wouldn't be shocked if he was a guy that gets let go at some point, especially if some of the younger players step up. But I wouldn't love it either. I think you need the depth. I think he's a good player. I think he can contribute on special teams as a linebacker, a bunch of different things. So I like Mack Wilson. I think he's got talent. If they don't like what they see from him, though, and they don't think he's going to contribute much like last season, then I wouldn't be shocked if they ended up keeping an extra running back or an extra something to keep some more depth in other places, like an extra tackle or something like that. So I wouldn't be shocked, but I certainly wouldn't love the move. I think Mac Wilson should be a guy you keep.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's take a quick little ad break from our sponsors here at Underdog Fantasy, a little 30-second ad break. And then we'll get into kind of the D-Hop of Dalvin Cook rumors. And then we'll kind of wrap this up. If you guys got any questions, go ahead, throw those in the chat. So go ahead. Here's a ad from Underdog Fantasy. We'd like to thank today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Underdog's Best Ball Mania 4 is the biggest fantasy football contest ever with $15 million in total prizes. The winner will receive $3 million. There is no season-long management with no trades or waivers, and it is only a $25 entry fee. All you have to do is download the Underdog Fantasy app or go to underdogfantasy.com to draft your team. And if you use code PATSDRIVE, you can get your first deposit matched up to $100. All right, yeah, thanks to Underdog Fantasy for doing that. Again, Underdog's legal in like 41 of the 50 states, so there's a high chance you're going to be able to do it. This is their football special. It was $10 million last year in total prizes. It's up to $15 million this year. So if you guys are into that, make sure you use code PATSDRIVE. It's on the screen right here, or you can also click the link in the description of this video to get your first deposit matched up to $100. So you put in $20, you get a free $20. You put in 100, you get a free 100. That could be up to 10 entries in that thing. So, 10 entries because $25. So, you want a chance at 15 million, or I should say 3 million to first place. Go ahead and enter that code and do that. So we'd like to say thanks to Underdog Fantasy. So let's get into though our last little segment here, and then we'll kind of answer some questions. Obviously, the big news right here. What are the odds that both Dalvin Cook and DeAndre Hopkins are on the Patriots week 1 of this season?
What are the odds Belichick makes 2 really exciting moves in one offseason?
Pretty low. He's holding up a 0 for everyone that's just listening audio only.
Oh, yeah. Okay. 0% chance. I was trying to do a 0, but I couldn't find the angle right. 0%, not 0. But I don't think this is very likely. I think it's a pipe dream. I think if you get one of these guys that's super exciting, and we can go back and forth on who you'd rather have. These are 2 of the most exciting players in the NFL. I get Dalvin Cook almost every year in fantasy, and I love watching him play every week. He's super talented out of the backfield, super talented as a runner and a pass catcher. He's versatile. I think him and Ramondre would be by far the best 1-2 punch in the NFL. That is exciting to think about. And I think you could find a lot of really cool ways to use the 2 of them. I think you could throw Dalvin in the slot at sometimes. You could do different things with him and Ramondre with 2-back sets. I would love to see Bill O'Brien get his hands on both of these guys because that is exciting. DHop, obviously, I want him extremely badly. He's a super talented receiver. I get he's older. I get he's not the same player, but even having the name DeAndre Hopkins on the roster and the other team gets handed the game plan for the week, and that's the guy they're circling. We haven't had a guy that the defense has to pay attention to in quite some time. So getting one of these guys, amazing. Getting both these guys would be absolutely incredible. And I can tell you're worried about fan interest. You're worried about people wanting to come see the Patriots, watch the games, prime time, all that stuff. You get Dalvin Cook and Dalvin Cook and DeAndre Hopkins on the Patriots. That is going to be must-see TV for Pats fans every single week. So I think it's a no-brainer if you can. I think Dalvin Cook is going to want to get paid a little bit, and I don't think the Patriots are going to be the team to do that. But if he's willing to come here on a cheaper deal and DeAndre Hopkins is going to be here as well, and that's something he's interested in, absolutely bring him in. I think that'd be really, really exciting.
Yeah, and I really do think if you bring in DeAndre Hopkins, this is going to be a vastly improved offense. You heard what Kirk Herbstreit said about the offense and Mac Jones just with Bill O'Brien. Like, he had no chance last year. He believes Mac Jones is going to get to a Pro Bowl caliber type of player this year. I agree. If you want him to take that 3rd-year leap, like you've seen Josh Allen, Tua, some of these guys take, you add DeAndre Hopkins. Now, obviously, Dalvin Cook is a different story. I think him and Ramondre Stevenson would be a very fun 1-2 punch. I'm fine not getting Dalvin Cook. I think Pierre Strong, I think Ty Montgomery, I think Kevin Harris are great options to have behind Ramondre. Obviously, Ramondre is going to be the bell cow back. He's going to be the guy that's going to be taking the bulk of the work. but then you're going to have guys that can take some of the pass catching off him, like Ty Montgomery. Pierre Strong showed flashes. Kevin Harris is a big goal line third down back. So I don't think the necessity is with Dalvin Cook. Is that an awesome option? 100%. Go get DeAndre Hopkins, make that happen. You had him on a 2-day visit here. There's obviously interest between both of you. The biggest thing that gives me hope is that you heard that the Bill O'Brien situation is not going to be an issue, that they've kind of, made up for it. I don't know if it's 100%, if they're all buddies anymore, but they said that they would make that work. So that is very encouraging for me, and it should be for all Patriots fans. Now, does that mean New England's going to get him? No. If it comes down to money, New England's in the best spot to get him. And I don't know why he'd want to go to Tennessee. I mean, if they're offering him more money, I get it, but do you really want to go over there and play with Malik Willis? Or do you want to come to New England, play with Bill Belichick, who you've respected for so long, Bill O'Brien, who you've had your best seasons under, and then an upcoming quarterback in Mac Jones? And he said it. He wants a stable quarterback and a great defense. New England's going to have a great defense. They will have a great defense. So if DHop wants to come here, that's the move you got to make, in my opinion. And then maybe Dalvin Cook, because he's the one that kind of brought it up and said, this is, I would love to play with DHop. If he wants to take a discount, then you consider it. But you make DeAndre Hopkins happen first, and then you see what happens from there.
Yeah, and I would get Cook just to take him away from Miami, because he's going there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But just sticking on DHop, because I think that's more of the tangible rumors and more of the actual evidence of possibly things happening. Just the fact that he took the visit and was here for a couple of days, I think shows that him and Bill O'Brien are okay.
Yep.
Like, he wouldn't have came here if he had a big problem with it. As far as just focusing on DHop, you got to get him. You want to give your quarterback a good situation. Get DeAndre Hopkins. It's not like you're paying a guy $30 million like Tyreek Hill. It's not like you're even investing that much into him. You're going to invest $12 to $16 million, maybe with incentives that ends up being more. But if he earns the incentives, then he was worth the money, and it doesn't matter. So I don't know. Like you said, I have no idea why he would want to go to Tennessee. They are not going to be competing for a playoff spot. Even if they sign DeAndre Hopkins, what's the best Tennessee does? Like maybe 500. I just don't get it. I don't know why he'd want to go to a worse team who likes to run the ball more than the Patriots. That doesn't make sense. Our defense is going to be better. I get Mike Vrabel's a good guy. I like Vrabel a lot. He's a great coach, but I don't see why he would pick Tennessee over New England unless the money is significantly different. So I don't know. I feel like Tennessee might be willing to offer more. I think they're a more forward-thinking organization where they're willing to manipulate the cap more than the Patriots. I know we have more cap space, but I don't think Tennessee would be afraid to pull from further years just to get DeAndre Hopkins. They got Julio Jones last year. They got Robert Woods last year. They got Julio Jones the year before. So they've done this with receivers who are aging before, and I certainly think that it's possible they do it again. What do you think? What do you think the percent? If you had to put a percentage on it, what percent chance do you think that the Patriots sign DeAndre Hopkins?
I'm going to put it at 60%. I think it's more than 50. I think he's leaning. I think it's 60-40, us in Tennessee. Now, I heard rumors that possibly a spot that does make sense for me for Dalvin Cook too, and it's in the AFC, so that's why I bring it up, is the Jets. Other than the Dolphins is the Jets, right? Because we don't know the Breece Hall situation, and even when a running back does come back off an ACL surgery, how much do you want to just throw him in and give him 25 carries a game? That makes sense. Now, I don't know if they're even in on DHop. Would he be interested in going there with Aaron Rodgers? I'm sure there's some interest there, and that would scare the living crap out of me. But I really do think it's 60-40. He's leaning us towards, and then Tennessee's kind of the 40% chance. I do think we're going to get a little bit. It's not going to happen within a week. This is probably, if it didn't happen on the visit, it's going to continue to linger out. I hope it happens sooner than later, but I really do think he's going to kind of wait. See what happens. If injuries happen or something, maybe something else better comes up. But I do believe it's 60-40 in favor of New England. So I'm giving us a 60% chance. This is more than New England's ever done for any other big-time receivers that we've been interested in, right? Bringing them in for a visit, having history with him, not only from Bill O'Brien, but Bill Belichick loving him. players out on our team out there recruiting him. Mac Wilson, Matt Judon. Now, Judon recruits everyone with 2 legs, and that's in the NFL. But still, there's a big push. Kendrick Bourne had said that he would love to add DeAndre Hopkins into this wide receiver room, and they'd welcome him. So that I think it's 60%. Now, here's the other question I'm going to throw back to you. Is there an odd man out if we sign DeAndre Hopkins? Is it De'Von? Is it
Definitely Devon
Parker?
Gottschall. I think Devon Gottschall's the odd man out of that.
You jumped the gun. You jumped the gun. Is it Devontae Parker? Is it Kendrick Bourne? Do you just now totally cut ties with Kayshon Boutte? Is there an odd man out if you bring in DeAndre Hopkins?
I think there's got to be an odd man out. But as far as DHop, a lot of our wide receiver room has injury history. If you can find a way to make it work, keep them all, because the depth can't hurt. And it does you no good trading him too early. Wait till camp, let them all figure it out. Make sure you're going into the season healthy. And if a wide receiver goes down for another team and they make you a great offer, okay, take it. Then Devontae Parker gets traded or whatever. But I'd prefer to keep the depth with a lot of guys that have had that type of history. We know suspension was the reason for DHop not playing last year for most of the time, but like we just talked about, Tyquan Thornton, Devontae Parker, KB's been a guy who's been pretty steady as far as health goes. Knock on wood, but I would just, if you can find a way to keep him, just keep him. And as far as a percentage chance for me with DHop, I'm putting it at like 35-40 for us. The more time goes on, the worse I feel about it. And if we don't get DeAndre Hopkins, I'm burning my Matt Judon jersey, because he has hyped this up so much, like putting out the best GM in the world or whatever his tweet was. It's like, once the DHop picture with Judon went out, I was like, oh my God, it's happening. Like, we're going to sign him. Then Judon posts that a couple days later, like, greatest GM ever. And then Mac Wilson is out there putting all these things out there a million times. It's like, they're hyping it up as if he's already signed here, and he's not. And he's continuing to ponder over it. They could last into training camp. The Patriots are not going to wait around until training camp to sign DeAndre Hopkins. I just don't believe that. If he's going to wait that long, he's going to be waiting and find a different spot. So I don't feel great about it. I really was hoping we were going to sign him that day, not let him leave the building, give him a good enough offer to just have him come here. And I hate how Bill refuses to ever overpay a guy. Like, you're willing to give Nelson Aguilar $12-13 million a year, but not DeAndre Hopkins. Like, smarten up, dude. What are you doing? You'll give Jonnu Smith 15 a year and Aguilar 12 a year, but you can't give DeAndre Hopkins 15 by himself. Like, he would by himself be better than both those guys combined for a decade. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand the whole thing there. You can certainly make it work cap space wise. We have like $14 million. You can absolutely make that work, no problem, and have plenty of room to still maneuver. So I don't know. I think there's no reason not to get DeAndre Hopkins. You got a big decision to make on Mac next year. Surround him with talent and see where he goes. If he stinks and DeAndre only does a little bit or whatever, then okay, well, we surrounded him with talent, a good offensive coordinator, and Mac couldn't perform. So, on to the next guy. You'll figure it out then. But you don't know until you try. Go sign a guy. Bill has not done anything exciting in so long, and it's just his old way of doing it. Let's get a bunch of average players, not do anything too exciting. It's not worth the money. Like, go pay a guy.
Yeah. And this would probably be for Matt Judon. All the misses he had being a GM, this would make up for all of them. In my opinion.
I wouldn't care if he lands DeAndre Hopkins. If he's a reason DHop signs here, whatever. I don't care about all your other misses.
Give him GM of the year if that's what happens. I don't care how many guys he tweeted.
We need this one. Just give us this one.
Yeah. So I think that I'm a little more optimistic just because I think that there's just, it feels like there's more going around New England than what's been before for a free agent receiver, and it doesn't feel like, obviously there's teams that want him, the Bills and the Chiefs, but DeAndre Hopkins has kind of said he's maybe prioritizing one last contract or money more than a ring. So that gives New England that upper hand. If he was saying a ring, he's probably signed with Buffalo or Kansas City right now, but he's not saying that. So the teams that are interested in him, the Titans and the Patriots that brought him on visits, the Patriots have more cap space than them. So I'm a little more optimistic. I do think that I'm still giving it a 60% chance that, DeAndre Hopkins is in a Patriots jersey. And I really hope that it's higher than that. I hope it's 100%. I hope that maybe he told both Bill O'Brien and Bill Belichick, like, hey, I'm coming here. Just, let's work out the details and stuff. And then I'll come, right before camp. Hopefully. I don't know what's going on, but I think
I don't
that
care
will
how
be,
he gets here, just get him here. And
Yeah.
if he is here, a jersey will be ordered so fast, it's going to be unbelievable. So I don't know. That would just be so exciting. We haven't had a guy like that to get excited about in so long, and that would certainly be fun. So I'm really hoping the DHop stuff works out. I hope he stops his vacation and just signs with the Patriots. And I don't know. I think it's a great situation for him. You got all the things you want: stable management, a quarterback who loves the game, and a great defense. You got all those things. Bill and him have a lot of respect for each other. Just come here. You'll have a blast in New England. Fans are great. You got Matt Judon in that locker room. KB, the wide receiver room is full of energy. The only thing I don't know is the practice stuff. I don't know if that's going to bother Bill, and maybe that's why he hasn't signed yet, because some situation with that as well. But DHop doesn't love practicing. But yeah, as Wave says here, that'd be your biggest free agent wide receiver signing since, Moss was a trade, right?
Moss was a trade.
Yeah.
It would be your biggest receiver
Since
acquisition.
AB.
Oh, okay. Yeah. One game AB.
That
Antonio
was so
Brown
exciting,
for one
though.
game.
Like
that
when
was very
when we signed
exciting.
AB in that first game, he played like 4 snaps and got targeted every one. I was so excited. I was devastated when he was doing the things he was doing and we cut him. I was like, oh my God, that was like you got the taste of an elite wide receiver for 5 seconds and then boom, he's gone. I'm like, oh my God.
So
this would be great. I would certainly be excited about that. And then you can pull Tom out of retirement, come play with DHop. Like, it'd be great.
Yeah. Well, anything else on the DHop Dalvin Cook news? If not, we'll kind of throw it to maybe some questions for the last 8 minutes here. One I see up here, I kind of like, we'll kind of answer this. Ashton, hopefully you're still here. Will Christian Gonzalez win Defensive Rookie of the Year? Now, Christian Gonzalez currently has the 5th best odds. He's plus 950. Devon Witherspoon's plus 900. Same with Tyree Wilson. And then Jalen Carter's plus 650. Will Anderson's the clear favorite at plus 350. So there's a couple guys up there I like. I think Will Anderson's the clear favorite, but what do you like? Do you like Christian Gonzalez's chances to win Defensive Rookie of the Year?
I think the odds there are correct. I think that's what I was going to say before you said the odds. I was like, Will Anderson feels like a guy that would get it, just because Gonzalez, the way he plays, he's a guy who has less interceptions and more pass breakups. And I think in order to get some of those awards like that, you need to have a lot of interceptions or a lot of sacks or something like that. I think it's easier to get a sack for Will Anderson than maybe a pick for Gonzalez. So you're going to be going against some really good receivers. I think you're not going to be as worried about picking the ball off as you are about just trying to break up the pass and cover these guys. So I think Gonzalez, ideally, he's a lockdown corner that doesn't get targeted a lot. So if he can do that, I think he's a guy that maybe won't be up for the awards based on statistics, but is certainly a lockdown Defensive Rookie of the Year worthy type player.
Yeah, and I think he'll have the opportunity. I think you talk about Devon Witherspoon, Tyree Wilson, Jalen Carter, Will Anderson. Those guys will be day one starters. So I think that he's going to have the opportunity. If he comes in and has 5 or 6 interceptions, maybe a Tyreek Woolen type of year last year for the Seahawks, yeah, anything can happen. Now, he's going to have the opportunity. They're going to put him out there. The one thing that concerns me is he's probably going to have a lot of interceptions. And he wasn't a ball hawk in college. He was just a lockdown dude. You go watch that film review I did. He has the ball skills and stuff, but he wasn't just taking away. He wasn't just having, 8 interceptions a year. The most he had was 4. So I don't think he's going to have the interception numbers. I wish he does, or I hope he does, but he can easily be just that lockdown presence. And I don't think that wins you Defensive Rookie of the Year, because you're going to have Will Anderson or Jalen Carter probably having 10 plus sacks. And, maybe you have Devon Witherspoon or Emmanuel Forbes. I see Mike down here say Emmanuel Forbes, he was a ball hawk in college. So maybe you have guys like that have a little bit better stats, and they're going to have the chance to win that award a little bit better. So move on. Red Patriot is not really a question. I'm going to make it into a question. Cole, if you had to cut if you signed DeAndre Hopkins, you have to cut Devontae Parker or Kendrick Bourne, who you cutting?
Parker.
Okay.
Parker saves you more money, and Kendrick Bourne, I think, offers you something that not a ton of players on this roster do. I think he's great after the catch. I think he showed a lot his first year here. I think he was probably our best receiver, if not second best. He was great. Kendrick Bourne was great his first year here. He was in the doghouse all last season. So I hope he's out. I would love to see Kendrick Bourne stay on this team. You got him for cheap money. I think his contract is even more valuable than Devontae Parker. So with Parker's injury history, I think Kendrick Bourne's more reliable on that front. Devontae Parker might be a better receiver, I would say, obviously, but I would personally, I think you're going to save more money and you're going to get a guy who's more reliable, and that's what I want in this wide receiver room. Once you get that number one guy, I think Devontae would be the odd man out if you had to cut one.
Yeah, I feel like it's just a little repetitive with him and DeAndre Hopkins. Bigger receivers, probably true X's. So I'd have to agree with you. I do totally. If you're talking better receiver and there's no injuries involved, yeah, Devontae Parker for sure. But when you're bringing in DeAndre Hopkins, a little bit repetitive. So Carlos asks right here, do you guys see all three rookie offensive linemen making the roster? If not, who gets cut, put on IR? I think for me, I see two of them making it. And I think that it's going to be Sidney Sal and Antonio Mafi. I think the only reason Jake Andrews doesn't make it is because of David Andrews. Now, I'm not saying
he was also a 4th round pick. So I feel like they're going to try to keep him on the roster somehow, whether
that's my point is.
Yeah.
It also depends. What do they do with Cody Russi? And what do they do with some of the other guys? Now, I could see all three of them making the roster. Now, for me, if I'm saying you got a Foxborough flu one or put one on IR or something, Jake Andrews, because I think our center position is locked. David Andrews is locked, barring an injury. Knock on wood, hope no injury. Sidney Sal could play tackle. Antonio Mafi could slide in at guard if you move Michael Winu out to tackle. So those are the two guys, in my opinion, that have to make the roster as of right now. But Jake Andrews is going to be a very good player for us. I think that he takes over for David Andrews one day. I don't know if he has a role this year.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think that's probably what I would say as well. I don't think they're going to cut the 4th round pick, but like you said, keep him on the roster somehow. I think that's probably what they would prefer to do.
Yeah, for sure. Let's kind of a couple more. There's only one more, so get him in before we wrap this up. Will asks, do you want to sign Taylor Lewan for depth?
I don't know. I guess it depends what he wants. If he's willing to come on a super cheap deal, give him a shot. I mean, he's a former Pro Bowl type tackle, so if you want to give him a shot, yeah, sure. But if he's going to be demanding a decent amount of money, he's older. He didn't have a great year last year. He's had some injuries, so I'm not super interested in that.
Yeah, I wish that our tackle situation was, done. I wish, you could have Riley Reef pan out at right tackle for a year, then draft someone, and Trent Brown would pull his head out of his ass and not have some of the issues he does. I think he's the best option on the free agent market right now is Taylor Lewan. I really hope we don't get to that point having to sign him. So
yeah,
if we do have to get to that point, it makes sense why they do it. But all Patriots fans should hope that we don't get to that point because that will not be very fun. So
yeah,
Carlos, Taylor Lewan said he can't bend his knees anymore. Yeah, he's doing the podcasting and stuff like that. I wonder what his desire would be to come back. How old he is and his status, he's probably not going to come back for cheap. He's going to be, if you throw me a couple million or something, then I'll come back for one more year, but he's not just going to come back for very cheap. So I don't know how realistic that one is. So, but,
yeah. Last one real quick. What about Marcus Peters? This is somebody I'd be interested in if DeAndre Hopkins signs elsewhere and Jack Jones gets cut. Then this is a guy that I'd be interested in bringing in. And I think he's on the back end. I don't think he's what he was necessarily, but I think your cornerback depth on the outside especially gets real thin if Jack Jones is gone. And if you're not giving money to DeAndre Hopkins, then I think this is a guy that maybe is worth bringing in to add some depth to the outside there for you.
Yeah, Marcus Peters obviously has the name. Like we all know what he is. If you put him, Christian Gonzalez, Jonathan Jones, that's very, very good. Now, obviously, I would wish that Jack Jones just figures out his situation because Marcus Peters is not really going to be kind of the future for us. Like he's not going to solve issues. You're still going to have to find a young guy. That's why I'd prefer Jack Jones just developing him. But if he does get cut, that would be very interesting. Or if Jack Jones does get cut, that would be very interesting to see if they bring in Marcus Peters, what he does, I really think that he could be a good option for New England. Carlos also says Ronald Darby is interesting too, another guy that's up there in age, but has man coverage, tendencies. He's played in that Broncos system, Texans. He's been around. He could kind of serve as a bridge guy, bridge year for the Patriots if they have to deal with that market or that Jack Jones situation. So I agree. Marcus Jones would probably be the one that intrigues me the most if we don't get DHop or Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but anything else before we wrap it up? Appreciate, you guys. We've seen you, Ashton, Mike. It's good to be back with all you guys. Carlos, Will, all the guys that, are usually on here, and then the new faces, Wave, Red Patriots. Good to see you back here again. We're going to be more consistent. Obviously, football is going to be picking up here. We might still do a couple clips coming up before we do our next live stream, but we appreciate all you guys' support, liking, subscribing, sharing this with your friends. Make sure you guys go do that. Comment down below your guys' thoughts and stuff. But anything else, Cole?
No, that should do it. Yeah, thanks everybody for hopping on, tuning in, and like Jay said, a couple more great film reviews coming out, a couple clips probably, and we got about a month until training camp starts and things really start picking back up. So we appreciate you guys as always tuning in and showing love to the clips and stuff. Jace puts a lot of time into those film reviews, so go show those some love. They deserve it. And that's all I got until next time. We'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Patriots Drive podcast. Follow us on social media to stay up to date with all things New England Patriots. Make sure you tune in to the next episode and check out patriotsdrive.com for more great content.
We're on to Cincinnati.